Chernobyl, the nuclear disaster that changed the world. Welcome to ChronoVault, where we uncover history's defining moments. In this episode, we journey into the Chernobyl disaster, the worst nuclear catastrophe in human history. Stay with us as we explore the explosion, the human sacrifice, and the legacy that still casts a shadow over the modern world. Support ChronoVault by subscribing. Segment 1. The night of the explosion. On April 26, 1986, Reactor 4 at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant became the center of unimaginable disaster. During a late-night safety test, errors compounded rapidly. At 1:23 a.m., a massive explosion shattered the facility, ripping through concrete and steel, unleashing radiation into the dark Ukrainian sky. The explosion hurled a 2,000-ton reactor lid into the air, exposing the nuclear core. Fire burst outward, igniting nearby structures. Flames colored the night as graphite burned with a deadly glow. The blast was so violent that it was felt miles away, a catastrophe unfolding in mere seconds. Unaware of the full danger, plant workers scrambled through smoke-filled corridors. Many fought to control the reactor, receiving lethal doses of radiation. Their bravery came at a terrible cost, as confusion clouded decisions. The disaster was already beyond human control, yet its scale was still hidden in the shadows. Residents of nearby Pripyat awoke to distant tremors and glowing light. Few realized their lives had changed forever. Children played outside that morning under a silent, radioactive sky. Invisible particles spread across the air, unseen yet deadly, turning ordinary routines into moments of exposure to an unfolding nightmare. As night turned into morning, fires raged across the reactor site. Firefighters rushed in without proper protection, armed with only courage and determination. They fought flames with bare hands and hoses, standing within lethal radiation. Their sacrifice would become one of history's most haunting testaments to human duty and bravery. The explosion was not just physical, it was symbolic. In that instant, the illusion of total technological control shattered. The disaster became a grim reminder of humanity's vulnerability when ambition, error, and forces of nature collide in the deadliest of ways, leaving scars that endure across generations. Segment 2. Chaos and immediate response. Confusion defined the first hours after the blast. Officials minimized the scale, believing the reactor could still be contained. Orders were unclear, and radiation levels, dangerously high, were grossly underestimated. While flames devoured the plant, Soviet leadership hesitated, delaying crucial decisions that might have limited the unfolding tragedy. Firefighters continued their impossible battle. Many collapsed from radiation burns and nausea, unaware of the invisible enemy assaulting their bodies. Ambulances carried victims to hospitals, where doctors faced illnesses they had never encountered. The first responders became the first casualties of a disaster no one fully understood. Within hours, helicopters were summoned to drop sand, clay, and boron onto the reactor's core. Pilots flew through radioactive clouds, risking their lives to smother the inferno. The mission was heroic, yet incomplete, as the reactor continued to burn, releasing radioactive plumes across Europe's skies. Meanwhile, Pripyat remained calm. Families went to work, children attended school, and celebrations continued. No official warning reached them for 36 hours. The invisible threat grew stronger, radiation soaking streets, playgrounds, and markets. The city, unknowingly, became a trap, where life unfolded as death quietly approached. In Moscow, debates raged over what had occurred. Some leaders resisted acknowledging the scale, fearing international embarrassment. The Soviet system's obsession with secrecy delayed information, intensifying the tragedy. While the truth was hidden, radiation traveled swiftly, crossing borders, exposing millions across Europe to danger. As confusion deepened, the world began to take notice. In Sweden, radiation alarms triggered suspicions of a nuclear accident. Questions emerged, and pressure mounted. The disaster, though buried in secrecy, could not be concealed. Chernobyl was no longer just a Soviet problem, it was becoming a global reckoning. Segment 3. Evacuation and human cost. Finally, on April 27th, evacuation orders reached Pripyat. Buses lined the streets as residents boarded quickly, carrying only essentials. Officials promised a temporary absence, assuring people they would return soon. In truth, none would ever come back to live permanently. Pripyat was lost, abandoned to radiation's silent grip. Children clutched toys, mothers carried infants, and fathers tried to reassure their families. Behind them, the city remained eerily still, windows open, meals unfinished, lives interrupted mid-sentence. Radiation seeped into every object, every home. The people's absence would freeze Pripyat in time, transforming it into a haunting ghost town. Hospitals filled with the sick. Firefighters and plant workers received fatal doses, their suffering unimaginable. Doctors and nurses worked tirelessly, but were powerless against radiation's invisible assault. Families were separated, loved ones isolated. The cost of human life mounted daily, hidden beneath a cloak of official silence. The disaster's psychological toll grew alongside physical devastation. Citizens feared the unseen, distrust spread, and entire communities were uprooted. The Soviet government's handling of the crisis bred anger and confusion. What began as a local accident quickly spiraled into a human tragedy affecting thousands across Ukraine, Belarus, and beyond. As more areas were declared unsafe, entire villages faced evacuation. Generations left their ancestral homes, carrying only memories. Cemeteries, farms, and churches were abandoned, swallowed by the exclusion zone. The human cost was not only measured in lives lost, but also in the cultural and spiritual erasure of entire communities. The weight of loss lingered across borders. Survivors carried trauma, children bore long-term health consequences, and societies struggled to comprehend the disaster. The evacuation was not merely a relocation, it was an erasure of identity, a fracture in human history carved by radiation's invisible hand. Segment 4. Containment and the liquidators. To confront the crisis, the Soviet Union mobilized hundreds of thousands of liquidators. Soldiers, miners, and workers were ordered to clean radioactive debris, build barriers, and seal the reactor. Armed with little protection, they entered lethal zones, their bravery unmatched, their fates often sealed by invisible exposure. One of their most daunting tasks was clearing the reactor roof. Robots failed quickly due to radiation, forcing men to shovel radioactive debris by hand. Each had only seconds on the roof before retreating. Their sacrifice slowed the disaster's escalation, but the cost was staggering. Many would later fall ill. Miners were sent beneath the reactor to dig tunnels. In suffocating heat and deadly radiation, they worked tirelessly, determined to build a cooling foundation that might prevent another explosion. Their labor, carried out in near darkness, became one of the most heroic yet tragic chapters of the containment effort. Helicopter pilots continued to drop materials over the reactor. Engineers struggled to design solutions. The ultimate answer was the sarcophagus, a massive concrete structure encasing the reactor. Built in haste and danger, it stood as both shield and monument. holding within it the echoes of suffering and human determination. The liquidators' stories remain among the most powerful legacies of Chernobyl. Ordinary people faced extraordinary danger, guided by duty and sacrifice. Many were never honored in their lifetimes. Their efforts, however, prevented an already devastating disaster from spiraling into an unthinkable global catastrophe. Their courage reflects humanity's paradox: fragile yet resilient, vulnerable yet unyielding. In their silence and suffering, they embodied the highest cost of survival. Chernobyl's containment was not merely a technical task, it was a human battle fought in shadows, with lives exchanged for the safety of millions. Segment 5: Legacy, Lessons, and the Ghost Zone. Today, Chernobyl stands as a ghost zone, a haunting monument to disaster. Pripyat's abandoned streets, overgrown with nature, echo with silence. Ferris wheels rust, schools remain empty, and wildlife thrives where humans cannot. The exclusion zone is both graveyard and sanctuary, reflecting nature's resilience and humanity's vulnerability. The legacy of Chernobyl reshaped global views on nuclear energy. Nations reconsidered safety measures, while scientists studied the disaster's long-term effects. It highlighted the cost of secrecy and the danger of arrogance. Lessons were carved in radiation, reminding the world of the balance between progress and responsibility. Generations continue to bear the burden. Survivors tell stories of loss, illness, and displacement. The disaster lives not only in ruins, but in memories, shaping identity and cultural history. Chernobyl became more than a tragedy, became a cautionary tale etched into the collective consciousness of humanity. Documentaries, literature, and research keep the memory alive. The haunting images of abandoned toys, frozen classrooms, and deserted squares remind us of what was lost. Chernobyl is not merely history, it is an ongoing presence, whispering warnings to every society that seeks progress without foresight. Despite devastation, the exclusion zone became a place of unexpected resilience. Wildlife flourished, forests reclaimed the land, and life adapted in radiation's shadow. This paradox underscores nature's capacity to endure, even where humanity falters. In this, Chernobyl reveals both the fragility and adaptability of existence. The story of Chernobyl endures as a symbol of human error, sacrifice, and resilience. It stands as a reminder that progress without caution can lead to ruin. In silence and shadow, the Ghost Zone urges us never to forget the lives lost and lessons written in fire and ash. The Chernobyl disaster reshaped history, revealing both the dangers of human error and the strength of human courage. Its legacy lives in silence, ruins, and memory. Thank you for watching. ChronoVault support us by liking, commenting, and subscribing to continue exploring the moments that define our shared past.